Today is May 24th, 2006. I am Sarah Locker. It is a pleasure to conduct this interview for the Dakota Memories Oral History Project in Strasburg, North Dakota. Can you please state your full name?
Felix A. Wald. I use an A because my dad's name was Anton, so that's why the A is in there. Felix A. Wald, Strasburg.
And when and where were you born?
I was born 4 miles east of Strasburg on a farm at home. In those days, of course, you were born right there on the farm in the house.
And when was it?
October 23rd, 1930.
Okay. Have you ever heard an interesting story about your birth?
Not really, but I think the midwife was my grandma.
Did your grandmother, was she midwife for
Yeah, she did a lot for the family. As a matter of fact, my grandpa on the Bernhard side, see, my mother was a Bernhard, and they came over from Russia. You know, my mother was 3 years old when they arrived here in the States, and he was kind of a doctor over there and over here. He still have some of the books, his doctor books, and that's what he kind of did, was help people.
Wow, so he wasn't actually a farmer.
Yeah, they did move to a farm when they come over here up by east of Kintyre, and they farmed there until some of the family was big enough to farm. Then they moved into Strasburg. Yeah.
Okay. Can you share some of your earliest memories that you have?
Well, of course, we went to country school. I don't know if I said that right. Did I say east or west of Strasburg?
East of Strasburg.
East of Strasburg, yeah. Okay, I went to country school. It was just a half-mile west of our farm. So we walked to school. And, of course, during the wintertime, we'd have neighbors that come through there that lived further east, and we'd hitch a ride, with a sled or whatever. And so we, of course, all our teachers were just girls, mostly girls, just out of high school. At that time, they could teach just out of high school. So most of my teachers were people that I knew, and so.
Was that awkward, having
well,
that you knew?
Of course, I don't know. You didn't think of it that way, at that time. Of course, it was just somebody that you knew, like I think my last teacher was Rosemary Wagner, and me and her brother Mike, we're good friends and ran around. We're still good friends today, But anyway, but then we had my first grade teacher was Irene Lynch. She came from northern part of the state, and we had our 50th wedding anniversary, and I didn't know that she was still alive. That's a long time. She passed away now this past year at 91, I think she was. And had we known that she was still alive, she'd have been at our anniversary. But we didn't. I didn't realize she was still alive. So we went to visit her up there in Bismarck. Spry, she had, her mind was perfect. So that was one of the things that I remember.
And did you start school speaking German?
Well, yeah. Of course, we all spoke German at that time. Nobody talked English, So we, just had to learn the English as we went to school, Of course, we weren't allowed to speak it during class time or while we were at school, but you got out in the recess and we all talked German anyway.
What would happen if you got caught?
Oh, they didn't really mind that much, as long as you didn't do it inside the schoolhouse, Yeah.
Then you knew the teachers. Did they ever just start talking German to you?
Well, I don't really remember whether some of them started to talk German or not. Just don't remember that. But anyway, we did talk German while we were out there playing and stuff like that. Of course, baseball was our big thing out there. hide and go seek or Andy over. You know, I don't know if you know about Andy over. You just, you know, we had groups, you know, and each group was in one side of the schoolhouse, and we'd throw a ball over, and then you'd catch it, and you'd come around with the ball, and you'd throw it at somebody. As soon as if you hit somebody, that person was out. See, so you kept doing that until one side lost all their members, and then the other side was the winners.
Where did you learn to play baseball, Andy over all those games?
Well, that was something that we started in school. You know, the kids would start that in school. There's something that probably the older ones did, and it just carried on, you know, to
Do you know at all if those games were also played over in Russia by your parents?
Oh, I really don't know. I never learned about that at all, whether what they did, what they played over there, but that was something that was done in all the country schools, you know, of course. And of course, it went to the 8th grade, you know, and that was the end of my education.
Did you want to go on to high school?
Well, no, not really. You know, the farming was in your blood, I guess, and that's, and at that time, you know, you really didn't. Things were simple on the farm. You didn't really need a big education to do that. It's not like today, the way things are run today. You know, you have to have an education to do all the modern things, yeah. But, and then, you know, of course, we had, while we were going to farm school, we always had 2 weeks of what they called summer school. We'd go to town for 2 weeks to study religion with the nuns.
Was that in German though?
No, then was English. When I went, I guess some of the older ones, they did teach them some German, you know. But when I went, it was English. You learned everything in English, yeah.
How did you like going to school?
Oh, I didn't mind it. It was fun. It was, you know, there was only 25 to 29 or 30 kids, sometimes 34, to the whole school. You know, you had all the grades into one room. You know, and so you just heard what was going on through the whole 8th grade. You know, and so it was. I enjoyed it. There's just one thing during the winter. You know, these old schools, there was no insulation in them, and they had all these big windows to the north, and on a cold, windy day, you didn't sit in your desk. We gathered around the big pot-belly stove to keep warm. You couldn't just go back, and your feet would get cold and everything else. So in those days, we studied around the stove.
34 of you would pop
Yeah,
on the
yeah.
stove instead to stay warm.
Yeah, that's right.
What was the population of your school? Were there more boys than girls?
I would say it was pretty equal, pretty even, yeah. There's, you know, a lot of girls, a lot of boys, you know, yeah. It's pretty equal, I'd say, yeah.
Were you all German Russian?
Yeah. It was all German Russian around there, yeah. Yeah, of course, then there was a lot of farms around there. There's only a quarter of them left now, you know. Yeah.
They've all gotten bigger.
Yeah.
What was your favorite subject in school?
Golly. I really, reading or, I don't know, writing maybe, you know, it's something that we had to do. I don't know, really, you know, none of them bothered me. I could, you know, do all of them. I liked, you know, those days we had to do all this penmanship, they call it, you know. You know, a lot of these kids today, you can't read their writing. Well, why? Because they don't practice those letters, you know, yeah. But we did a lot of that, you know. And I don't know, I liked all the subjects, really.
Did you have a favorite teacher?
Well, I don't know. I probably remember the last one the best, you know, then we were growing up. And you know, all the other ones were older, you know, and she was probably about 4 or 5 years older than I was, you know, really not that much older. You know, I had her in the 8th grade, and it took 4 years to get through through high school, so she wasn't a lot older, yeah. So I remember her probably the best. And still, she isn't around here anymore, but, she was for a long time. And the other ones were older, usually older ones.
You said that you played baseball at recess.
Yeah.
What did you use for bat, glove, ball?
The school provided things like that. Yeah, they had balls and bats, and and we had a little baseball diamond out behind the old barn there, and there was of course a barn on the premises, because during the wintertime, even summertime, a lot of them would come with horses and sled and whatever, and so there had to be a barn there for the horses. So there was a barn, and so we had mapped out a little diamond behind the barn there, and that was our ball diamond. Yeah.
That's neat. Let's talk about your family for a little bit. Can you tell me about your grandparents on your father's side?
Well, of course, he was the only one that came over from Russia of the family. And I guess he was about 18, 19 years old when he got to America. Come in through New York and came down into the Eureka area and then up into a little town. I forget what the town was, but he stayed there for a couple of years, worked for a farmer down there. And then he came up to Strasbourg and took up some land 4 miles east of here, and that's where he started farming, He was the only one that came over. He came because at that time there was a lot of unrest in Russia, and he got out. They started taking these boys into the army, into service, and he got out of there and he's the only one in the family that came to America. And back in 94, we went back over to Germany, and we had found the relatives, and we visited the rest of the relatives over there in Germany.
Can you share any
well,
it was like?
Kinda, they really didn't talk a lot about it, but it was, it's tough for them, they couldn't get out until the wall came down, that Russia had put up, and after that, and then they'd let them out. They could go back if you were true German. They could come back to Germany, and so they must have been in the late 80s, early 90s when they started. Anyway, after the wall came down, they got back to. And Katie had put an ad. We were ready to go over in 94 back to Germany. And we had been over there in 72, I think. We were over there once before. And then she put an ad into the Folk auf dem Weg. It means people on the road or on the way. And that we're looking for relatives, the Walds, Bernhards, and Glatz. And lo and behold, I think it was in June, we got a letter from she had put a picture in of my grandpa, and in June of 94, we got a letter from a girl that was also looking for the Walds in America. And we wrote back and forth, several times. She could already then write English and talk English. And we wrote back and forth, and things matched up, and so we visited over there in 94.
How did she end up being related?
She would have been a granddaughter of
She was a granddaughter, yeah.
of my
Granddaughter to the sister.
to my grandpa, yeah.
Okay.
So it was.
Okay.
It wasn't. It was right close, yeah.
Oh, that's really
Yeah, it was. They couldn't wait. They couldn't wait to see us and meet us. We had told them, we'll be there about such and such a time, and so we were a little bit late. They were all out standing on the street waiting for us. Yeah, they were. It was great. But now some of them have passed on, since then. We were going to go back in 2001. We were just making plans when that happened in New York, when they flew those airplanes in. Then we decided maybe we shouldn't go, but we should have gone. It probably would have been the safest and easiest to go right then again, you know. I would have liked, now it's, I don't know if we're going to go back again or not. But
Did you ever get to meet your grandparents on your father's side? Remember them?
my grandparents, oh yeah,
On your
yeah,
father's side?
yeah, oh yeah, sure, yeah. He was, of course, he never drove a car. He never owned a car, you know. It was all horses at that time. They finally, when my dad started farming, they moved into Strasbourg, you know. And but I didn't meet my grandma, my true grandma, my dad's mom. She passed away after the last child was born, and so I never got to meet her. But he got married another times. He went. Maybe I should go back and tell you this too. He had a girlfriend over there in Russia, and anyway, she couldn't come, you know, at the time that he came. So he came over, and of course he married a Keller lady that was originally from Strasbourg here, you know. And anyway, she died then after the last child was born. But in the meantime, I didn't know this until they told us over there. But I asked my brother a while back and say, yeah, he knew it, you know, but I never heard this. Anyway, this girlfriend did come over later, see. When she got here, he was married, see. So she went into Montana and worked there and whatever. When he lost his first wife, they got together and he married his girlfriend anyway. So that was quite something, you know, yeah.
Interesting. Did you meet her?
No, she had passed away too again. He got married a third time, and I met her. I remember her, yeah. It's the only one I remember, yeah.
Did they ever share, did your grandfather ever share any stories about the old country or
Well,
coming over?
Of course, I was young then, you know, and you didn't get involved in any of this, you know, so I never heard him talk about any of this, no. But I don't know, I never really talked to Martin about it, my older brother, whether he knows or remembers anything, but I don't know, it seems like they didn't talk a lot about that. And there was one thing that you did when you got company, when in our time, you didn't stay in and with the older people and listen. You went to another room, so you didn't hear any of that, you know. It's not like today that everybody's together and everybody's, you know, talking and whatever. Those days, you didn't do that.
The kids had to go off and play.
Right, you had to go somewhere else, you know, to another room or whatever. You just didn't sit in with the older people.
Interesting. How about your grandparents on your mother's side? What were they like?
Well, of course, those I both remember, I knew well, you know. Of course, I'm not sure, they might have been a little younger, because my mother was the youngest, not the youngest, the second youngest in the family. Well, she was a twin, so there was, and then they were all born in Russia, except for one brother was younger, was born here. And she was 3 years old when she come across to America. And like I said, he was kind of a doctor, you know, he did doctor some, you know. He did it in Germany or Russia already and continued here. And of course they retired into Strasbourg and well, he died sooner. I was kind of young yet, but I remember him. And of course my grandma lived to be a little older. And of course she come down with Alzheimer's, you know, and so that time, of course, there was no nursing homes, so the family each one would take her a month, you know, and so we had her out at the farm many, many times, you know, and, you know, just like the ones in the nursing home today, they want to go home, you know, and she'd have a little satchel, you know, and she'd pack that, and she'd start walking, you know, and of course we knew that me and my sister, Marie, is just a year younger than I. So we'd let her walk maybe about a quarter mile, and then we'd go over and run after her and get her back again. And next day she'd do the same thing. But that's the way it went, I guess. Yeah.
I suppose you didn't get that many stories from your grandmother then?
No, not really. You just, like I said, you just didn't sit in with the older people when you were young. Yeah.
Did you ever get to meet any aunts and uncles, since your mother was the second youngest to come over?
Oh yeah, they all lived around here, you know. In those days you didn't move far away. So yeah, I knew all my aunts and uncles of both sides, both the Wald side and the Bernhard side. And,
yeah. Did you have a favorite aunt or uncle?
Oh, golly. I really don't know, you know, those days. You didn't get involved like you are today, you know. Not really, you know. You visited, you know. They all visited, you know, all the time, you know. They would come and visit. We'd go over there, and they'd come in here. And so there was a lot of visiting, and like the Strasbourg Church Fair, you know. Even though it wasn't a holiday, I mean, you had the house full, you know. Everybody would come, and all the uncles and aunts and whatever come for supper. And, you know.
What would be served for supper?
Well, the chicken and whatever, you know, and of course you'd always have chickens on the farm, and you'd butcher some chickens and whatever, you know, and of course the potatoes. And, you know, you had everything, you know, you had root cellars, and so you had your own potatoes from season to season and whatever, and a lot of canning stuff, you know. You'd butcher in the winter, they'd can a lot of sausage, and, you know, it was all prepared for so you had stuff through the summer, you know. It's like the butchering of the pigs, you know, you'd smoke it, and you'd keep it all summer.
And just in the root cellar?
You know, it was salted and smoked enough. All we'd do is hang it into a shed, you know, and make it dark, so the flies wouldn't see the dark. In the dark, the flies won't gather. See, so the flies wouldn't get in there, and you'd be good all summer.
You didn't have to worry about any other animals getting in there.
No, it was close enough where animals couldn't get in. No, it was hung up on the ceiling, you know. So nothing could get there, you know. The only thing that could was flies, and then you kept it dark so the flies wouldn't bother.
What did your mom use to keep things cold then?
Well,
cool?
A lot of times some would hang it down into the well, you know, yeah, with a string or something, you know. We'd buy watermelon, you know. It'd be put down into the water tank, you know, because there's always fresh water pumped into it, and that's what kept the watermelon cool. It's just something you had to get by on, you know. There was no refrigerator. Oh, some had ice boxes, you know, and then some in the the Dashes kept ice cellars, you know. They'd make ice out of a dam during the winter and put it down into a kind of what they call an ice cellar, and put straw over the top, and it would stay. You keep ice in there all summer.
Well, what would the straw do?
Well, the straw insulates. Yeah, see, yeah, straw will insulate. You put straw over the top, you know, and it insulates, and it wouldn't melt. Yeah.
Never heard that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Interesting. Well, let's talk about your father. When and where was he born?
He was born here in the United States, yeah. Possibly out on the farm too. I really don't know, but I'm sure, yeah. Because there was no doctors, you know, until later, you know. It was all midwives, you know.
Even your grandfather, who was the doctor, wouldn't deliver. It would still be a midwife instead.
Well, he might have done some of it too, but I never really heard, you know. He wasn't really a true doctor, but he did practice medicine, you know, the herbs and stuff, whatever, you know, and healed through that, you know. He, like I said, he brought some books over. There's still some of them still around that he did things out of, you know, yeah.
What kind of a man was your father? Can you describe him?
Well, he was taller than I was. He was heavier than I was. But yeah, he was a good dad. He was very, very, very kind and very I don't think I ever got a spanking, which happened a lot those days, but he was good, yeah, very good, yeah. Hardworking, he farmed, all his life until he retired into Strasbourg, and yeah.
What all did he do on the farm? What animals did he have? What crops did he raise?
Well, of course, you always had a lot of horses because all the work was done with horses in the beginning, and so there was always a whole bunch of horses. And then, of course, some cattle, some beef cows, some milk cows, they always milked, there was always milking done. Of course, there was pigs, there was chickens, there was geese, there was, everything, one thing we never had was sheep or goats. We never had those. But other than that, turkeys, I remember a lot of turkeys out there. But and of course, corn, there wasn't a lot of corn raised those days, because the equipment wasn't there for silage and things like that. They didn't have any of those equipment. So it was some corn, and of course, in the fall, you'd go out there and you'd pick it by hand, and haul it home. So you didn't have a lot, maybe 20 or 25 acres or whatever. It's about all you had,
It would still take a long time to pick all the corn.
Yeah,
for
yeah.
20, 30
Yeah,
acres.
yeah. We'd hire somebody, then of course during the weekend when everybody was home, we'd be out there helping. We'd have a wagon or just a regular grain box and some high sights put on one side so when you throw the cobs up so they wouldn't fly off the other side. So, and you'd pick all day, and it was quite a job, yeah. And then a lot of times, we'd pick it, you didn't husk it out there, some would, some didn't. And then it would be put into, like, what was fed to at a corn crib. Of course, what was fed to the pigs right there, you didn't have to husk, they'd get to the corn on their own. But then there was some that they would shell for other reasons, for other things, for the chickens and things like that. Then we would put that into a barn, and we'd sit out there a lot of times evenings and we'd husk it. And then you'd put it through the what do you call it, I forget now what they call them. Anyway, to get the kernels off the cobs, Yeah.
Did you mainly use the corn for feed for their animals?
Yeah, it was all used for feed. Yeah, the pigs, they always had pigs, and it was number one feed for pigs. And then some was ground up, put into chicken feed, and things like that. Not a lot was fed to the milk cows, and there wasn't any. I don't remember out there having a Holstein cow. It was just regular cows, that you lured the milk, and there wasn't a big Holstein thing, like it is today.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Did your father express a lot of emotion?
I don't know. Not really. I don't know. Things were simple, then. There wasn't a lot. Well, during the 30s, it was hard, I know my dad, before things got bad, he had bought a tractor. He had bought a D John Deere. I think it was like I forget what it was, one of the earlier models on of course, locks. There was no rubber then. And of course, then when the 30s came, nothing grew. He had to sell it. Couldn't use it anymore. Nothing to plow, nothing to grow, So he sold it. And of course, I didn't have another tractor until I'm not sure exactly, but it was probably, of course, in the late 30s, then things started to grow again, So I don't remember exactly when he bought the first little S tractor, Case S tractor, pulled two bottoms. And so that's how he started again, And then, of course, I plowed for 2 years with horses when I was about 16, 17, 15, whatever. I don't remember exact years, but I did plow with the horses for a couple of years. And then he bought a bigger tractor and then bought a second tractor. And then I would put of course, everything was put in, the drilling was all done by horses, first First years, everything was plowed by horses, drilled by horses. Headered, we talked a little bit about header before. Harvested by horses. Everything was horses, until things got to combines and stuff, got a little more modern.
You said during the 30s your father had to sell the tractor. Did he have to take on any New Deal program jobs in order to make it through? Do you work for the WPA?
I think he did work a little bit WPA. We had, there was a gravel pit not far from us, and they did gravel roads, with horses. And I think he did work for that a little bit, for a while.
To get through the hard years?
Yeah. Of course, he got commodities, like oranges, apples. He'd go to Linton and they'd give you some oranges and apples and, to help you along a little bit. I don't know if they got flour or whatever. That I don't know. But there was a flour mill in Tenvik. And, of course, during the 30s, nothing grew, so they didn't have any. But even later and before, they would load up a couple of, whatever, sacks of wheat, and they'd take it to Tenvik and get it ground into flour.
What was your relationship like with your father? How would you describe it?
Yeah, it was good. It was no problems. Of course, these things were simple. You weren't bored like you are today. These kids are today. I mean, you just, if you wanted something to play with, you build a little something yourself or whatever. And I don't know, we weren't bored. The kids. There was a lot of neighbors. Sundays we'd always be together. The whole neighborhood would be in either this farm or that farm, and you'd play hide and go seek and baseball and whatever, and days passed sometimes probably quicker than you wanted to.
Did your dad ever help you build things and teach you how to do some of the building?
Not really, I don't think. I don't remember that really, but you didn't get any toys. I don't remember receiving any toys, If you got an orange, some peanuts and an orange for Christmas, that orange, you only saw that once a year, So it was, I don't know.
Was your dad easy to talk to?
Yeah, he was easy to talk to, yeah.
How did your father die?
I don't know. Of course, he got up in age, He did have a little stroke at one time, but he wasn't paralyzed. It was light, and I don't know. He just kind of got old and whatever. I don't remember. He didn't have cancer or anything. I don't know. He just was in the nursing home for a while and just finally passed on. Yeah.
Do you remember when he died?
What year was that?
I can't remember those years.
I just don't remember exactly. He was, 80?
He's in his 80s.
Yeah, why don't you look it up there in the Bible?
Well, she does that. We can talk about your mother.
Yeah.
What was your mother like?
Yeah, she was nice. She was kind. She was good to us. Yeah, she was maybe a little bit like I was. Like she liked to collect things. She had a little bit of a coin collection, and she liked to crochet and things like that. Yeah. Yeah, she died kind of young. She got breast cancer, and of course those days there wasn't the chemo or the things like this today. So she had her breast removed and never really got over it, and she passed away. Yeah.
Okay. She was born in Russia?
She was born in Russia. Yeah, she was 3 years old when they come over. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. How does she express emotion? Did she ever get mad at you kids when you were being a little mischievous?
Well, I think my mom was a little more so than my dad. I never really saw my dad get mad, He just never did get mad, I don't know. I never saw it anyway. But she would be a little stricter with us kids, yeah. But not overly strict or anything.
If your dad told you no, that you couldn't go to town, would you try to ask him again, or did you know that that meant no?
Well, usually you just forgot about it, you know. You had no way to go anyway, you know. The only way you would go is walk, you know. Because I didn't drive a car until, I don't know, probably 17, 18 years old or whatever, you know. And so you just never, didn't have anything.
Was your mom a good cook?
Oh yeah, she was a good cook, yeah. Yeah, we always had good food, there's no doubt about it.
What was one of your favorite meals she would make?
Well, of course, you know, it didn't change a lot those days, you know. You had, you had chicken, you had mashed potatoes and the gravy, you know, and of course they always had the Sunday was the soup day, they always had chicken noodle or some other time. They'd make borscht and whatever, you know, so that never missed, you know. Sunday was soup day. So it is today, even a lot of families today, and German families, soup day, you know, yeah.
What was her role on the farm? What all did she do?
Well, of course, she helped milk, and she helped, she'd feed the chickens and take care of those things, and of course the cooking and whatever. And some women, I think maybe she did too, you know, when you hit her, you had to have somebody on the stack to sit the stack, you know. And I think she was out there not as often as some of the women, but she did that too, yeah, during harvest.
What do you mean sit the stack?
Even it out, see, you'd have to even it out. See, it would be, I don't know, maybe about 25 feet long, see, and the guy that had the header box, he would pitch this wheat up on this stack, see, and they had to have somebody down there to form the stack, see, you moved it around so it gets square long. It was up long, you know, and so I had to have somebody on the stack to you know, straighten out, to square out the stack,
So
yeah.
every so often she'd help out with
Yeah,
that.
you'd have to be out there all day, you know, so you couldn't unload without somebody up on the stack, yeah.
Okay. How many children does your mother and your father have to take care of?
There was 6 of us, three boys and 3 girls, yeah.
Can you list them off for me from oldest to youngest?
Oh, yeah, Martin was the oldest. I think he's 84, 85 now. 81, I'm not sure. Anyway, it was Martin, and then was Benedicta, my sister, and then was me, and then my sister Marie, and then another sister Alice, and then my youngest brother Tony.
And how did you guys get along with each other?
Oh, yeah, that was no problem. Yeah, we got along. Of course, it's like all families. Sometimes you didn't agree with something or that, whatever, but no problem. No, we got along well. Even today, you know, I mean, everybody sees each other and visits each other. It's no problem.
Was there ever any competition between any of your brothers and sisters?
Well,
Did you
no.
better in school or anything like that?
Well, by the time I started school, I think my oldest brother was already out of school, and like Benedicta didn't go too long after that, you know. The only ones that were in school together really was me and my sister, and then Alice started later. So, and Junior, I'm not sure if Junior Tony even went to a country school. I don't remember.
Okay.
So we were far enough apart, so there wasn't any problem. Yeah.
If you guys were being a little mischievous, getting into a little bit of trouble, how would your parents discipline you?
Really, that wasn't. I don't know. Maybe go to. Of course, you didn't have your own room, so they can send you to your own room. And I don't know. I really don't remember. You know, there wasn't a lot. You didn't get into trouble a lot. You know. So really, not that much. No.
Did you ever hear a story about how your parents met?
Golly, I never did. I don't know how they met really. But there was, you know, let's see, how is that now? At those days, there was a lot of times, you know, 2 brothers would marry sisters, you know. So it went into our family all the way down to Dwayne, our son. My uncles, there was two uncles that married two sisters, see. And then on my side, my brother Martin got married to a Cher girl, and her brother got married to my sister. And then in our family, Dwayne got married to a home girl, and her brother got married to one of our daughters. So it happened three generations that way in our family.
Well, it's interesting. When it would be blizzarding outside and you guys weren't able to go outside, what would you do as a family to pass the time?
Well, of course, there was radio then already, you'd listen to the radio, or, I don't know, we'd get magazines, and we'd go through magazines, and I don't know, it seems like the time passed and without much problem, Of course, there wasn't too many days where you couldn't go out, Of course, if you did go out, you'd build snowmans and things like that. We'd always have, those days seems like there was always a lot of snow. And you'd go out and you'd dig tunnels and through the snowbanks and all kinds of stuff, So it was always something to do.
There's some way to keep yourself busy.
Yeah.
What would you listen to on the radio? Do you remember a favorite show?
Well, of course, the Grand Ole Opry, when I remember, was coming on those days already. And WNAX, Yankton, South Dakota, they were one of the more powerful stations in the area. We'd listen to WNAX. They'd have, even Lawrence Welk was on WNAX, for a number of years. And then there was a station, Del Rio, Texas, out of Del Rio, Texas. But they were controlled with so many watts of power. But they went and built their tower in Mexico, where there was no control. So they could put all the power on they want, and we could get that station in all the way from Del Rio, Texas. That country stuff on there, and all kinds of Texas music, Yeah, of course. Then the next powerful station was, of course, KFYR. They built that tower. It's still up, east of Bismarck, quite a ways east, and then there's two towers to the north. So they were pretty powerful. So we could get KFYR. Yeah.
Did your family ever listen to any of FDR's fireside chats on the radio?
Golly, I don't remember really. I think there was some on, probably, they weren't on. He wasn't on a lot, but I think I remember listening to some of his. Yeah. Seems like I remember when the war started, of him probably coming on the radio. But of course, I was only 11 years old then, so.
Do you remember when new brothers and sisters would be born? Do you remember any of your other ones being born?
Not really, I don't know. Of course, I was young then, I don't really remember. Of course, I wasn't born when the first two were born. I was, and then my sister and I were only a year apart, so I was only a year older than she. And Alice, I don't remember. Well, towards the end there, we had a Dr. Vonnegut at Lytton, and he would, towards last, come out to the farms and deliver. They had no hospital, of course. So he would come to the farm, and deliver babies, yeah.
Do you remember how you and your brothers and sisters reacted to the new little one?
Yeah, I really don't. Really don't.
That's fine. Well, let's talk a little bit more about playing. When you had some free time on the farm, what all would you do? You said every Sunday that you and the kids got together.
Well, Sundays there wasn't a Sunday we didn't go swimming. there were some pretty good sized dams, around. So that's one thing we did, we'd get together either in this farm or that farm, and the Dashes had a pretty good sized dam, and during the summer we'd be over there and we'd be swimming all afternoon, yeah.
Is there any games you played?
Well, sometimes we'd play some baseball probably, and I don't know, not a lot of other things, I guess. Those days there was no basketballs, there was no football that whatever. The only thing that you really did was baseball, We played a lot of that, yeah.
Did your mother or your father ever play with you?
No, not that I can remember, huh?
Did you ever go hunting as a child?
No, not really. When I got a little older, yeah. When 17, 18 years, we'd start going pheasant hunting, duck hunting, But I never really got involved in the hunting that much. After we were married, I don't think I ever did go hunting. No, I never got into that much.
How about fishing?
Well, fishing, I got involved in that when fishing started, yeah, around with the lakes, with the river, with the lakes coming in, the river going up. And then, I bought a boat. I had a boat for most of my years, I bought a boat, must have been, let's see, I had the 58, so it was probably the early 50s when I bought a boat. And we take it out to Rice Lake. Rice Lake got up, right down here. And we go boating Sundays, yeah. It's water skiing, did a lot of water skiing. And then later on, when the lakes come in over here, and then I bought a bigger boat, 18-foot London. Then we'd be fishing a lot. Yeah, I'd go here, left fishing, and then, I don't know, then lost more interest and one of the boys, Darren, the younger, he's a fisherman, and he said, Dad, do you want to sell your boat or should I go and buy myself one? No, I said, I'll sell it to you. So I sold it to him, and of course, his earlier years, he'd come down this way, to fish Sundays and weekends and whatever. And I'd just go out and join him, But now with the water down, you can't put in out here anymore, so he hasn't been coming down this way, So I haven't fished for a while.
Well, you said you went skiing in the early 50s.
Yeah, yeah.
Would you buy the skis? Would you make the skis?
No, you could buy water skis, yeah. They weren't like they are today, They were more flat and not as pointy and narrow as they are. You could, but that boat that I had would pull one skier. But if you had two people that were good skiers, I could pull two of them, So a lot of times there was two of us skiing out at Rice Lake. That's a big lake. See, it's 2 miles long, So you could do all kinds of skiing out there. Yeah, we'd ski every Sunday. We'd out there water skiing.
It's a pretty good sized motor to be able to have two skis.
Well, it was only 40 horse then,
Okay.
But you had to be two good skiers, so you get up fast, Otherwise you wouldn't pull it, yeah.
Would they start sitting in the water, or would they start
Yeah,
standing on
I'd
the
start
dock?
sitting in the water, yeah, and then pull you out, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
You skied, so I was curious.
Yeah, I did a lot of that.
Did you have any favorite rhymes or songs or saying as a child?
Well, I don't know. We do a lot of singing, we get together, there's a party or something, we'd sing some of the old German songs, and all those things, I was never a good singer, but as a group, you'd sing, yeah, do that every once in a while. We'd have parties. I had one time started to play the accordion when I was young, but I didn't stick with it. I was good enough where we'd have a little party and I'd bring my accordion. I played a number of waltzes and polkas that we could dance, yeah. So got married and put it away, and that was the end of it.
Did you buy the accordion, or was
Yeah,
it
yeah.
somebody else's?
And I bought it, yeah.
And you teach yourself how to play
Yeah,
it?
just by myself, yeah. In those days, there wasn't anybody around to teach. Everybody that played the accordion around here were self-taught,
Did anybody else in your family play
No,
instruments?
nothing else. I started the accordion a little bit. That's the only ones that ever got started on anything.
Do you remember any of those old German songs?
Yeah.
Just say the lyrics instead of singing it. You can even just say the lyrics.
Yeah, well, of course, maybe you've probably heard that there was drei rote Rosen hab ich gefunden, ich hab sie abgerupft, sie sind verschwunden.
What does it translate into?
It's I found 3 roses, so I picked them. And let's see, first I found 3 red roses, so I picked them, and later on they withered away or died. Yeah.
I've never heard that.
Yeah.
Who taught you that?
Well, I don't know. Everybody sang it, and you just finally caught onto it, and oh Susanna, was another one that we'd sing. And, there was. I don't remember all of them now, but there was quite a number around that we'd sing, yeah.